And thank you for joining this edition of Phillies Talk Podcast with Rich Baxter and Matt Veazey. On today's show, we'll be talking about 5 more days till opening day, who's going to make the team and who may not, and we're going to play a fun game of over or under. So check it out on this edition of Phillies Talk Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phillies Talk Podcast. It's the weekly show talking all about the Philadelphia Phillies. My name is Rich Baxter, and I'm joined most of the times, by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Matt Veazey. How are you, Matt?
Rich, good afternoon. How are you on this Sunday afternoon, our last Sunday without regular season baseball?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. Amazing. 5 days to opening day. I have a lot of enthusiasm, and I can't wait for the start of the season. It probably unlike any other season because we've had these COVID years of baseball, and this sort of seems like it's getting back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah. Last year, I recall going to an early season game with my brother, and there were a lot of restrictions still in place at that time. They had I won't say it was pod seating, but it was almost like that. You know, it was socially distanced seating. They had a maximum capacity for crowds. You had to wear your masks while you were sitting in the stands, unless you were actively eating or drinking. I know my brother, pushed that a few times. The mask Nazi was going up and down the aisle in our section. Yeah. And, had to warn my brother a couple times, put your mask up. And they did. In fact, there was one gentleman that was down near the front row, the first row down. We were in the, I guess, section 1, something or other. And the guy that was down the first row, I saw them the whole game go down talking to him. It was very obvious they were dealing with a mask issue. And probably maybe around the 5th or 6th inning, they went down with security. They tossed the guy, and he walked out without his mask. Gesturing to everybody. Everybody was cheering for him and clapping for him. Guy got tossed because he wouldn't put a mask on. So we opened last season with all that stuff, but by the end of the year, it was getting pretty much back to normal. I went to a game with my grandson in September. There was another game I went to box seats with my brother. They were up in one of the, corporate boxes, and I don't believe there were any restrictions at that point. So, it looks like, now that we got past this labor strife, we're ready to get underway with a hopefully normal season.
Yeah, and Aaron Nola pitching today down in Florida, and he'll be the opening day pitcher as well. And seems like he's holding his own today. And Sunday, April 3rd, as we're doing this podcast. And Phillies are up 3-1. Moniak with a nice bomb. I think they said it was his 4th home run of spring training. Do you think he makes this team coming out of Florida this year?
Well, there's no doubt that he makes the team now, Rich, unless there's some kind of, we still have a few days left this week, but unless there are injuries, he's absolutely going to make the team. Now, what are they going to get out of him? Who knows? But he's having a hot spring, and he maybe just one of these cases where, he was very young when he was drafted right out of high school. He seemed to be progressing pretty well until the whole pandemic thing hit. He's still very young. So this could be a question of he just is, finally becoming a man. He's finding his power. He's finding his stroke. He's working with a new hitting coach this year. Everything seems to be clicking. And I would say, though they've kind of anointed, Vierling as the starting center fielder. If I'm, and I think Girardi made a comment just maybe a week ago that Moniak wasn't in the conversation for, starting center fielder. But then Odubel got hurt and everything changed, and Moniak has really taken the ball and run with it. And as far as I'm concerned, Moniak has earned right now, he has earned at least a platoon role starting in center field at the start of the season. And being the left-hander, the left-handed bat, he would probably get most of the start. So I don't know what Girardi's going to do. I don't know how committed he is to Vierling, but I think that would be an overcommitment at this point, the way Moniak's playing. I think that Moniak at least goes north with the club, and he could very well, especially depending on what he shows over this last week, he could very well be in a platoon starting situation in center field.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it seems like he found his poise a little bit, as you said. Drafted right out of high school, young. He seems like he's coming into his own now. And as you said, he's working with a new hitting instructor. And that home run today, he's got that short, compact swing, almost like a Chase Utley, and he's got some pop to that bat. So it'd be great to see him prosper. Phillies picking him number 1 overall a few years ago in the baseball draft. And this past week, I was able to get my baseball picks book. And that's the Athlon Sports Edition, 224 pages, ranks all the players and all the teams. But I got a bone to pick with them, Matt. They're picking the Phillies for 3rd place in the NL East in 2022. I think they got it totally wrong.
Well, we had some interesting developments in that regard this week regarding one of the primary opponents of the Phillies. But let me just say this, Rich. I participated the last few years. There's a fellow who runs St. Louis Cardinals website, and he every year does a preview on each major league team, and he interviews some of the top bloggers and writers that cover each of the teams. And I've been fortunate enough to be one of the people he's interviewed about the Phillies the last few years. And this year, in my prediction, I predicted the Phillies. Granted, it was I was being safe, with my prediction, but I predicted the Phillies for 3rd place. The Braves, they're defending world champions. They have done a good job with their ball club. They're going to get, they're a full team, pretty much back. Freddie Freeman gone, but they've replaced him. What a nice trade with Matt Olson. So this is still a really good Atlanta Braves squad. And then the Mets, of course, made all their big signings, led by Max Scherzer. Now, we know what the Phillies did, with their big signings as well. But we also know that they have some defensive challenges, possibly. We're not sure how the pitching staff is going to flesh out. So I was trying to be safe by saying 3rd place, but I prefaced that with I thought that they were going to be one of the chief teams in the mix for one of those wild card spots. Now, and it wouldn't if you push came to shove, if you really pushed me, I would say they're going to get one of those wild card spots. Now, as things have played out, I turned that right up in like 3 weeks ago. We've had the Mets just this past week suffered the injury to Jacob deGrom, which is going to take him out. That's a huge piece for a length of time, probably for the entire first half of the season, maybe even for the first 4 months of the season. And then you have Max Scherzer, who's having his own problems. So this was supposed to be a deGrom Scherzer, big 1-2 at the top of the Mets rotation. Doesn't look like they're going to have those guys. So if Scherzer's injury turns out to be anything of length, then they're really in a little bit of trouble in New York. So, the way the Phillies are swinging the bats, their bats all along, once they made these signings of Schwarber and Castellanos, we're going to overcome some of those defensive shortcomings. But I really like the way they look. I mean, you mentioned today the Moniak homered. They also got homers today from Schwarber to lead off the game, hit an absolute bomb to right field, almost out onto the highway. Bryce Harper has a homer. He had another ball right off the top of the wall. It looked like it was going to be a homer. Bryce is swinging a hell of a bat so far this spring, coming off his MVP campaign. So at this point, factoring in the deGrom injury, would have to put the Phillies and the way things are looking. Again, before I go into what I was about to say about predictions, you also mentioned it. Aaron Nola probably home runs aside, Aaron Nola is probably the biggest story of today. He's a fantastic outing today. So he's in line to start on opening day. It looks like Zach Wheeler, the slow start that he had, it looks like he's coming along. He's going to throw on the side one more time on Thursday, and then he's in line to start against the Mets next Tuesday, which I believe will be their 5th game of the season. So right now, the Phillies look really solid, and knock wood. Let's hope they stay healthy. I'll turn my conservative pick for the Phillies now into second place, but they're looking like they can contend for the division crown. No, we'll see. They haven't even made the postseason in 10 years. The Braves are still the champs. There's the old saying: you want to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. But I like the way the Phillies look right now, and I think that you taking umbrage with what Athlon had to predict there. Part of that you might want to look at, when did they actually put that, prediction together? Had the Phillies made all their big signings yet? I'm not sure. Sometimes those magazines come out, they produce them a little bit early. But third place wasn't a bad conservative pick to say for the Phillies going into the season. But the way things are fleshing out, I think that you can push them up to second at least.
Yeah, they have the Braves picked first, the Mets at second, and the Phillies at third. Yeah, they do prepare this a bit early, as this season was held up with the lockout and things like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. As you said, the Mets are very much tumbled down the list, so to speak, with 2 of their star pitchers now supposedly on the shelf for quite a while, possibly. And the Braves with a question mark. Can they come back? It's going to be a pretty well new team. They still have the same core stars, and they've added Olsen, as you said, so they'll pop out as the favorite. But believe it or not, in a show I do with Mr. Gary Mack from MetsMusings.com, we did our picks today on the Baseball Talk radio show, and I picked the Phillies to win the division, and I really believe that they could win the division with this barrage of offensive talent that they've accumulated here. You've got 4 or 5 players that are possible 25 home run and 75 RBI type producers. And if they can get a halfway decent response from their pitching staff this year, and that's what's plagued them the last couple of years, and a bullpen that's been paper thin, will that improve this year? And if it does, I think the Phillies could walk away with first place. And maybe it's a little bit of preseason, muscle, so to speak. You're feeling great. You love your team, that sort of thing. That's might be where I'm at. But the Phillies seem to have accumulated some great hitters in Schwarber, Castellano, already with Stott, a big surprise from him. Moniak pulling it all together. This could be an epic year for the Phils. And I don't want to just sound like I'm a bandwagon jumper or fan come lately, so to speak, but really, really pumped about this season.
Yeah, I would say that my biggest concern going into the year right now, health aside, because every team you could say, if there's a couple of big injuries, they're going to struggle. So, health aside, and they seem healthy right now, the area of concern that I have with the Phillies right now is their infield depth. Stott and Bohm are not, I don't believe, both going to make the opening day roster. That would be a surprise to me because they want both of those guys to play every day. So, if they decide that, one or the other of them is going to be, because Gregorius is healthy now. Didi's healthy. He's had a good spring. He's going to be the starting shortstop. So it's either going to be Stott or Bohm starting at third. And whichever one they decide to keep up to start at third, The other one's going to go down and play every day at Lehigh Valley. If it's Bohm, he's going to go down there and play third base every day. If it's Stott, he's going to go down there and play probably shortstop every day with a little bit of third base thrown in. So, beyond, so you can't count those two guys, even though they're talented, as depth in the infield. Only one of them is going to be here to start the season. So, with the big club, you're talking about Johan Camargo, Nick Maton. I mean, is that your backup infield, your backup catcher, Scarrett Stubbs? I'm concerned about this bench a little bit. And I know that's quibbling with the big signings that they made for the starting lineup, but Mickey Moniak, or Vierling is going to come off the bench as an extra player. But I would like to have one more, veteran bat coming off of the bench for the Phillies this coming season. If you look at, like just last season, they were able to call on guys like Brad Miller, Matt Joyce. These may not have been the best players in the world, but they were good bench players. Ronald Torres, so the one area that maybe the Phillies were better a year ago was their bench, arguably. Now, that all remains to be seen. We'll see what Camargo does. I like Nicky Maton as a little player. I don't know if Maton's going to actually make the opening day roster. Girardi's talking about going with, I believe he said 15 pitchers to open the season. So there's a chance that maybe a guy like Maton will slip in, but I wish that there was a Jay Bruce type, some kind of, thumper who would come in, a Brad Miller type thumper, somebody who would come in with some pop off the bench. We'll see what happens, but I think that's an area that they're going to have to try to fill in at some point during the year.
Yeah, the bench could be a little suspect at this time. But one player that they did add, didn't know much about him, and I was trying to scout him with one of the Cincinnati Reds blogs, but wasn't able to catch up with him. But since I have a copy of the Phillies press guide here, we'll kind of read it up here on the podcast a little quickly here. 2021, Nick Castellanos made his first career All-Star team, starting in right field for the NL, and he batted fifth. Last year, he also earned his first career Silver Slugger award. So, seems like he's just coming into his own now. He looks all business there on the press guide photo there. Came into camp saying, I'm a hitter. I got to hit for my living, so to speak. He's not a prima donna. He's got to produce, and he knows that. Sort of said those comments as he arrived in spring training this year. How high are you on Castellanos this year?
Well, I'm high on Castellanos, and everybody should be. Nick Castellanos is one of the best hitters in baseball. Now, defensively, I think he's going to DH a lot. He'll play some left field, but defensively he's challenged. But, this is a premier offensive guy. He had 34 homers, knocked in 100 runs, hit 309 last year. As you said, he was a all-star and a Silver Slugger for the first time in his career. But he's got a resume. I mean, he's played in the big leagues for 9 years. He was with the Tigers. He was third baseman when he first came up. It was at that time he was like a 15 to 20 homer a year, 270, 280 hitter. He did have, as he matured though, he became an even more dangerous hitter. By 2017, he had bombed 26 homers with 101 RBIs, and he led the league in triples with 10 that year. So, he could run the bases as well. He scored 100 runs in 2019, hitting 27 homers that year, with a 289 average. In 2019, during the time, he split it with the Tigers and Cubs, but in his time with the Cubs in 2019, in just what is basically a third of a season with the Cubbies, he hit 16 homers and batted 321. So, Castellanos, Phillies got him or signing him in his prime right now. He is I think he's 30 right now. Yeah, he just turned 30 at the beginning of March.
Uh-huh.
So they're going to have him like from age 30 to 34, which is basically the back end, of your prime. So he's a huge bat, and he's gonna make a difference not only with his own bat, but as say protection, not protection for uh, just support. For a guy like Bryce Harper, if you have Castellanos hitting fourth and Harper hitting third in the lineup, which looks like it's probably going to happen, you could pitch around Bryce Harper in the past if you weren't too afraid of JT Realmuto, but you can't pit. You have to consider it very hard if you're going to try to pitch around Bryce now with Castellanos coming up right behind him, and then you're going to have to face guys like that have been here like Realmuto and Hoskins, who now they can drop back into that DD 5, 6, 7 part of the order thanks to having Castellanos there. So this is, there's no doubt that this is a powerful Phillies lineup. If they stay healthy, they're going to produce runs. They'll get shut down here and there. Every good lineup gets shut down now and then. They may go into a group slump at some point where they don't hit anything for 2 or 3 games, and everybody starts pulling out their hair, and we start seeing social media posts about, what happened to this great Phillies lineup? That's inevitable, both in it happening and in the social media reaction. But nobody should ever panic about this lineup as long as these guys are healthy. This Phillies team is going to produce runs this year. They're going to bomb homers. They're going to outscore teams in a lot of games. Now, how well the pitching holds up, how good the bullpen is. I like what I'm seeing so far. So as long as they stay healthy throughout the lineup and on the pitching mound, they're going to be okay. And hopefully they'll fill in and figure out this bench as the year goes along.
Yeah, one of the couple of the stats here in the Phillies press guide, most doubles in the MLB from 2014 to 2021. Number 1, Nick Castellanos. He's beaten out Freddie Freeman, Xander Bogaerts. Most extra base hits in the MLB, 2018 to 2021. Nick Castellanos again, and he's in some big company over there, and he's on top of the field with these specific statistics. So diamond in the rough, I think the Phillies picked up in him, and we'll see over the year what he does. But yeah, 2019, I'm scrolling back here, led the majors with 58 doubles, becoming the 10th player in MLB history with that many in a season. 10th player. It's a huge accomplishment. Was second in extra base hits, 88. And he's a player that I heard of on the Reds, and I knew he was good, but I didn't really know how good he was producing for them over the past couple seasons. So excited to see this Nick Castellanos and Schwarber type of era come and join hands with Harper and, the developing Philly stars as well. So as you said, we're going to have some offensive power this year. It's going to be dynamic. Over to the Phillies' record so far for this year in spring training. I don't think we can take much umbrage with the records in spring training. The Phillies with a 7-6-3 record going into today, start of spring training. I don't know if you can put much credence, if anything, in on that. But and the Phillies seem to be playing the same teams over and over and again with this reduced spring training. So,
well, that was intentional. Yeah, Major League Baseball kind of put all the teams in both the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League into pod type setup, if you will. Keeping them in their general geographic area as far as opposition, so they didn't have to travel, cross state or too far very often. So yeah, you're seeing the Phillies play, teams like the Blue Jays and the Tigers a lot more often than you maybe would in the past.
Yeah, that's for sure. Every other game seems like it's the Blue Jays and the Tigers now.
By the way, Rich, we just got another, your boy you've been mentioning here earlier, Mickey Moniak, goes yard again. 2-run homer for the Phillies, second homer of the game. What would that be? His 5th home run of the spring. Phillies are up 5-3 now thanks to that. So
wow,
the Mick, he's earning his spot.
Yeah, he's making one of those charges, as is Stott uh, out of Las Vegas, a roommate of Bryce Harper's this spring down there in Florida. And we could be seeing some Phillies becoming stars of their own now with Stott and Moniak, people like that the Phillies are banking on becoming homegrown stars for the team. And it's an exciting time. I had my MLB shopping cart filled up with Philly stuff the other day, and I was like, no, I can't do it. Like I had a brand new Harper original Phillies pinstripe jersey in the cart. It was like $300. I says, I had to delete the cart, but I got too many Phillies stuff already. But you can never have too much. But very bullish on the Phillies this year. Hopefully it's going to be a great season for them, and they stay away from the injury bug, because as we know with the Mets were gloating. They couldn't wait for the season to start. And then out of nowhere, it seems like DeGrom, Scherzer, and, they're both down for the Mets now. And it's suddenly a different story for them. So can't wait for the Phillies season to start. We're only 5 days away. Let's play a little over-under. How about win totals for 2022? Over or under 86?
I'm going to go over. They won 82 last year. I think they're, other than the bench, they're a better team than they were a year ago. So I don't see any reason why, again, prefacing, given health from the major, the bulk of the starting rotation, especially Wheeler and Nola, and the key guys in the bullpen and the key bats. So, the big guys stay healthy. This is a 90-win team, I think.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm thinking 88, 89 myself. How about home runs for Bryce Harper? Over or under 29?
Over. This is an over. With Castellanos sitting behind him, this could be a 40 homer year for Bryce. So, we'll see. He's really swinging a hot bat here in the spring. He looks like he wants to hit 50. And he's in his prime. We saw prime Bryce Harper last year with not a lot of protection. So I'm going to go over. That's an easy one for me.
Very cool. How about JT Realmuto batting RBIs for him? Over or under 93?
93. That's where'd you pull that number out of? 93, Rich?
Out of the air.
Okay. I'm going to say under, and not for anything against JT. He's never reached 93 RBIs in his career. His career high of RBIs is 83. Now, this is a big offensive Phillies lineup, but I think JT is going to hit probably 5th or 6th in this lineup. I think he's going to have a really nice season. Could very well be an all-star, another good Gold Glove year, maybe even a Silver Slugger, but he can do all that without knocking in that many runs. So I'm going to say under.
Okay, that sounds like a safe bet. And how about Zach Wheeler? Over or under 15 wins this year?
A lot of that depends on his health, Rich. That's a good question only because of that. I was concerned about his health. I'm still concerned about his health. Looks like he's going to be okay. Looks like he's going to start. Everything's positive right now. He's keeping in mind, again, just like with JT, Wheeler has never won 15 games in his career. Last year, his first All-Star year, runner-up for the Cy Young, and he won 14 games. So this is a better Phillies team. He made 32 starts last year. I'll say over, and I'll preface it this way: if he makes those same 32 starts, he's going to go over. I think only injuries could keep him from that mark.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll share your sentiment with that, and I'll go over as well. At least 15 games winning or more for Zach Wheeler this year. How about Moniak? 15 home runs or under or over 15 home runs for Moniak if he makes the team and plays?
Well, like I said, I think he's going to make the team. So I think with Moniak, you can throw a lot of his history out. Mick hit 15 home runs last year at AAA, Lehigh Valley. That was over 409 plate appearances, 100 games. You know, how much is there going to be a split between him and Veerling? If Veerling has any kind of injuries, you might see him get a lot of playing time. So I'm quibbling here a little bit with Moniak. I just have to, based on his track record, go under. But again, he doesn't have to hit 15 home runs to be valuable to this club. If he hits any, I think if he plays even semi-regularly, he'll hit double-digit homers. He has the capability of being a 15 to 20 homer guy. That's if he plays more. So it's going to be playing time based on Moniak. If you push me right now to Matt, you must make a prediction. I'm going to go under, but he has the possibility. Yeah, he has the ability to go over.
Very cool. I like those sentiments. I think so as well. Very high on Moniak for this season. And
Rich, I'm going to interrupt you again. Breaking news. Bryce Harper goes deep again.
Whoa.
2-run homer, 7-3 Phillies. Harper has 2 homers and another one that looked like it was a homer. Only the wind kept it in the yard off the top of the wall. Bryce is smoking.
Wow, that's amazing.
So the Phillies' big bats are pounding again today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'll watch this game a little later this evening. And we've been streaming this live on the Fightin' Phillies blog Facebook page. So hope you enjoyed that. And we'll flip-flop between the Fightin' Phillies blog there on Facebook live as we do these shows and the YouTube page that we have for Fightin' Phillies as well. Phillies Talk Podcast there on YouTube. So check it out. And whoever we get the biggest audience from is where I'm going to stream it to. Streaming is something that's, specialty. So I want to make sure people are watching it and enjoying it. Matt, before we disconnect from this show and our Facebook live stream, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you on the internet talking about the Phils?
Best place to find me is on my Twitter feed, and that would be at Phillies Bell. So I always tell people to remember, the big bell that rings out there when they win a game or hit a home run at Citizens Bank Park, the big Liberty Bell that rings. So it's Phillies Bell on both Twitter and I'm also on Instagram. Instagram's not as active. I just put up some history stuff there each day, but very active with the Phillies on Twitter at Phillies Bell. So that's where you want to go if you want to catch my stuff. I do some writing at my website at Matthew Veasey, MatthewVeasey, and I'll be doing more Phillies writing as we get into the season. So if you want to catch some articles there, it's more than just baseball. But you want Phillies stuff at Phillies Bell on Twitter.
Very cool. So check it out there for a lot of great Phillies commentary. And as Matt said, some Phillies history. I always like to learn a lot of stuff, and I find it right on Twitter from Matt's posts and also Instagram occasionally. I don't go on Instagram all that much, but if you want to follow the FightinPhillies.com blog, you just go to FightinPhillies.com. You can read some articles there and also find this show, Phillies Talk Podcast, long-running, independent. I think it's the longest-running independent show on the Phillies. Goes back to around 2007 is when we switched it over to all Phillies content. So,
as far as I'm concerned, Rich, you are Phillies Talk. Not that other, there's another place that came in, big, muscular place,
NBC,
and slid in there and started Phillies Talk. They call it. Well, you were Phillies Talk years before they were.
Yeah.
You're the original Phillies Talk.
Original Phillies Talk. Yeah, maybe I should rename it, but
get the lawyers out. Get the lawyers out.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to this edition, everybody. And we'll see you the next time we'll talk to you. The Phillies will be underway with a brand new season, 2022. We're getting pumped every day that comes forward here as we
Don't forget, Rich, you and I are heading down to opening day together.
Yeah, so maybe
next
we'll
Friday.
Yeah, we'll get some fresh comments on board for that, I'm sure. And it's going to be a festive time. I love the excitement. It's almost like a carnival type atmosphere there at the ballpark.
Let's just hope for good weather,
Yep, that too. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of Phillies Talk Podcast, everyone. And we'll see you on the next one.
Go Phils.
Take care.